Good afternoon, everybody. I guess my Drexel story started in 2002. Where I got a letter saying, congratulations, the big packet, not the little packet. You had been accepted into MCP, Hahnemann College of Medicine. And then a week later, the next letter that said, your MCP College of Medicine is now called Drexel University College of Medicine. Just making sure I was still in. You never know when the second letter comes. A few months later, I'm here in East Falls and trying to figure out, is Shelby's or D'Alessandro's better? I'm trying to spend a little bit of time at Murphy's Irish Pub, which I hear you guys don't go to that much anymore. And most of my time in modules. Is that what they're still called, modules? Okay. Every time I get a renal or endocrine question, I still remember how terrible I did on that one years ago. And I'll do extra reading just to make up for that performance, back in the day. Third year, I feel like is where things clicked for me, with medicine. As soon as I started seeing patients and talking to patients, all the things I read kind of made sense. Also met my wife, which helped me mature a little bit at the same time and figure things out. And at that time, I realized I wanted to go into family medicine after Drexel nicely sent me to Erie, Pennsylvania for the winter. And 6 weeks later, locked in a hospital and barely with the snow being able to make it back and forth, I knew that I wanted to be a family doc and see, children and young people and crazy people and healthy people and kind of do it all. There was actually a doctor there, also Dr. Reynolds, who was out there who kind of took me under his wing. And, I kind of saw what I wanted to be in medicine. And a few months later, after I had decided to go into family medicine, I sent him an email and called him, and I was like, I really appreciate it. You inspired me. I want to be a family doc. And he goes, are you coming out for an interview? And I said, you remember where you live? And so I appreciate it, but I wasn't headed back out at that time. Fourth year, I did a bunch of different sub-Is around here, and family medicine is a little bit different than some of the other things. I felt like all my buddies wanted to be orthopedic surgeons, which is great. They're doing very well. But my process of interviewing was, I went for a month. I went to Chestnut Hill for a month, I went to Abington for a month, and I worked with everybody and got to really know them. And there's no better interview you can have to know where you're going to go somewhere after you spend a month with someone. And one day, Dr. McKenna, who ran the program there, was like, hey, Chris, do you want to go play basketball? I was like, are you judging me because I'm tall? And I said, yeah, of course. And so we went and played basketball. Afterwards, he bought me a beer, and he goes, so are you coming here next year? And I was like, yes, and we shook hands, and everybody else was worried for match day, and I was set and ready. I don't know if you're allowed to do that. I didn't say that. There was some amazing thing with the process of medical school. You started because you did well on your MCATs and you want to be a doctor. I don't know if I had the full sense of what seeing patients was or how 4 years later I was going to be able to do it. But all of a sudden I'm graduating and you're an intern and you walk into an intensive care unit and you're writing notes and you're seeing patients, and it kind of all happened. It all went together. And so I don't know if I understood the process of everything that we did throughout medical school, but at the end it sure seemed like, hey, I'm a doctor now, and I sure had a lot to learn. And the more I know, I think the more I still don't know, and the more I'm worried about what we need to continue to know, and things are changing. From there, intern year went quickly. I'm done with residency. I joined a practice in Norristown. The practice I joined opened in 1941. World War II, there was one doctor who had a club foot, so he couldn't go to war. So they started a practice, been there ever since. And the first, a non-Italian guy to work there, and it was a bunch of people from Sicily who settled in Norristown, and everybody would come in for a shot, right? And they were still trying to break away from this to evidence-based medicine, and people would come in with a cold, I need a shot. They have something, give me a shot of B12. But very quickly, Drexel calls me and asks me, will you take medical students? And I said, sure. I mean, I knew at this point you guys needed people, so I had to say yes. And so medical students started to come. And my second medical student that I had, at the end of it goes, I think I want to be a family doctor. And I said, I could get you somebody at Chestnut Hill. And last year he signed on, and he now is an attending there. And so it's kind of the circle of medicine and teaching. What I really like is how medicine interacts with kind of the stories of patients, right? I learned off the stories of patients and kind of the wild things they say and the interactions I had. You know, we kind of wear different hats as doctors. You know, you're a teacher, a disciplinarian, a friend, a motivator. And so just yesterday I was trying to motivate a patient. And she's sedentary, she had high cholesterol, and at one point I was trying to get a sit, because every route I was going, she was kind of pushing back on me. And I was like, what are your thoughts on your health? What do you want with your health? Where do you want to be in 10, 20 years? And she goes, oh, I'm not worried about it. And I'm like, why? You have all these, risk factors for different heart disease. And she goes, well, doc, I'm too mean to die. You didn't meet her. A few months ago, I had this patient. He also wasn't active, but didn't want to take medicine. I was like, hey, let's do this the right way, right? And I'm trying to come up with a plan. I'm writing down an exercise plan, a weight plan, and I probably got inspired by The Biggest Loser, which my wife made me watch. Never watched it on my own. And I asked this guy, I'm like, do you exercise? Could you run? He's like, no. And I was like, what if somebody was chasing you? And he does this, and he goes, and points to his gun. And I was like, my motivating days are over. At times we're a disciplinarian, right? I had a guy and he had shoulder pain. I'm trying to examine his shoulder, and I'm going through, how, when, where, why, what have you taken? Oh, I took some Tylenol. You could almost sense it there's something else. Well, I took some ibuprofen, and I'm doing, where I'm being quiet. I'm trying to ask my open-ended questions, not interrupt. I only have 20 more people to see today. Type it in the computer. And so I kind of let him keep going. He's like, well, I took a Percocet. He's like, oh, okay. And heroin. I don't know if I took a set orthopedic rotation, but I know heroin is in no algorithms we have. I also am a member of the community, right? I live here where I work. And so it's different when you go places. At the gym, I get stopped for consults all the time, but at least I'm there. They're seeing that I'm at least trying to exercise. I ordered a breakfast sandwich the other day at Wawa, and the lady goes, Doc, this is terrible for you. I was like, just give me my sandwich. Right? But it is great, When you go out, you got to realize that you are a doctor, right? I don't know if I realized that when I was 22 and first started here, but I sure do now. And it's something that you're going to be respected, and so you got to make sure that you're being a good role model. I'm almost done. Being a doctor is more than just medicine, right? Obviously, everyone here graduating is smart. I'm very proud of all of you. It's one of those, it sounds like it's harder and harder to get into medical school. The students I'm getting are very smart. Makes me keep reading. But it's more than just being a doctor. It's about teaching patients, motivating people, setting a good examples, and more than anything to me, it's about the stories of people and the stories of the patients you see. Thank you guys for having me.